Israel's history in the Old Testament serves to point the reader forward to a time when wrong is going to be made right. Now, the bulk of their history is written in the former prophets. It's Joshua, Judges, Samuel, and Kings. And those books outline the time when Israel was living in the Promised Land. So God had promised Abraham, their ancestor, a super long time before this, that they were going to have a land to live in forever. And up to this point, they'd been living as slaves in Egypt. So God uses Moses to miraculously deliver Israel out of Egypt. Remember the 10 plagues. And he brings them into the wilderness where God gives Moses the law. We call this the Mosaic covenant or the Sinaitic covenant. God gives this covenant to Moses to the people. And in that, they're supposed to promise to obey God by respecting his purity and his holiness and loving him, and by loving one another and caring for one another. All of the law comes down to those two things: respecting God's purity and loving him, and taking care of each other and loving them. And we have the 10 Commandments, which are kind of the terms of the agreement. That's like the essence of the law. And all of the other laws help understand how those 10 Commandments are going to be lived out in the land. So the point is that they live in the Promised Land, and this law, this covenant, teaches them what to do to live there. If they obey the law, they receive blessings. They are going to have peace from their enemies, rest in their land, prosperity. If they disobey, they'll receive curses, which is going to be the opposite of those things, and their enemies are going to come and invade them. And at the beginning, when Joshua is reigning, so Moses has died, Joshua's in charge, he really serves as a covenant leader. He provides spiritual leadership, military leadership. They go in and they take over the land. Joshua is the book about conquest. But when Joshua dies, there's no real leader to unify the nation anymore. And so during the book of Judges, you have the sin cycle when they go back and forth between obedience and disobedience. And the judges are going to provide military leadership and like conquest in very small different places, different times, but the nation isn't unified. And it's not until Samuel comes, he's kind of like the last judge and the first prophet, and he's the one who begins to bring unity to the nation. And that's when we see the monarchy established. The book of Samuel talks about the monarchy. And some of the kings do well, and some of the kings don't do well. We get into the books of kings, and those outline how a lot of the kings actually did really poorly. The nation is split in half. They've had so much disagreement that they can't even be unified. And eventually, the kings, instead of leading them in covenant obedience to love God and love each other, they actually lead them in disobedience to the point that the land spits them out. They can't even remain in the land anymore. So what does this story tell us? Well, it doesn't just tell us about bad things that happen to bad people, but about how God was pointing everyone forward to a time when wrong was going to be made right. They didn't just need a king to unify them politically or militarily. They needed a king to unify them spiritually. We as humans don't just need someone to deliver us from slavery in Egypt. We need someone to deliver us from the slavery that we live in sin. We need someone to rule and reign in our hearts as a king. All of this is pointing forward to a time when a perfect, true king is going to come and accomplish all of those things.